Hi, I'm Noah, 31, and 3 weeks before my wedding my little sister announced she was pregnant with my fiancé's child. I didn't drop the ring, I dropped reality. It slid off the table like a cheap coaster while everyone pretended the table wasn't on fire. It was a Thursday pot roast at my parents' place, safe, predictable, brown. Dad couldn't look at me, Mom wrung a dish towel like it owed her money, and my sister Ava, 24, professional golden child, stood up, rested a hand on a perfectly flat stomach, and said, "Surprise." 6 months. 6 months of them sneaking around while I planned seating charts, and fought a florist about peonies like an adult. My brain made a little Windows error sound. Then I laughed, because the only other option was to scream until the house cracked. Phones started ringing that night like a fire alarm. My fiancée, Mara, called 73 times. I watched them stack up and let each one die. Mom texted, "Families work through things." Which is true in the same way ships work through icebergs. Dad said we should all lower our voices and think of the baby. The baby I hadn't ordered, the one apparently conceived in my absence while I was busy choosing napkins that matched a sunset. Here's the part people don't believe. In under 2 weeks, the whole family's narrative pivoted. Suddenly Ava wasn't a saboteur, she was young and confused, and scared, as if the pregnancy fairy had tripped and fallen into my ex. I became the problem because I was loud about being gutted. You know that line people use. These things happen. They do. To me, on a Thursday. Then came the salt rub. My date, my venue, my menu, mine, paid for, color-coded in an Excel sheet, got recycled for their wedding. Mom actually phoned to ask if we could reuse the arrangements, since it would be a shame to waste deposits. She meant the flowers, but she might as well have meant me. I said no. They said thanks for understanding. 2 months after I should have been saying vows, I watched a live stream because of course they streamed it of my sister, pregnant in white, walking my shoreline to my song Under My Arbor while my ex smiled like she'd won a raffle. I turned the sound off when I saw the appetizers. I had fought for those appetizers. I'd argued about the dill. 3 people didn't attend, my aunt, my grandmother, and my cousin who knows a boundary when she sees one. Everyone else smiled like a cult. I spent that day in my apartment with the suit I never wore and the ring I never gave and a silence so loud the walls bowed. Afterward Mom said I was making it about myself, which was a fascinating take on the man whose fiancé had been promoted to sister-in-law. So I did what quiet men do when they run out of quiet. I went invisible. Changed numbers. Moved across the river. Blocked them all like spam. Therapy, twice a week. The therapist asked if I wanted to work toward forgiveness. I said, "Can we start with sleeping?" I ran before sunrise, worked until exhaustion, ate protein bars like punishment, and built a life that didn't have a family-sized hole so much as an outline I refused to shade. Year 2, a miracle. I got through a Wednesday without thinking about them. Then I met her Jules, a laugh you can live in, a spine made of tempered glass, a marketing director who could sell winter to penguins but somehow believed me when I said I had nothing left to sell. We did the long-distance tango, then the shared sock drawer leap. I told her the story on a balcony at 2 a.m., every ugly inch. She didn't flinch. She said, "You didn't break. You molted." I proposed over burnt pancakes on a Tuesday because good love makes grand gestures feel like garnish. We married in Florence, 12 friends, a violinist whose sight read my vows when my voice failed, a photographer who caught me crying on Jules's shoulder and didn't post it because some moments get to be ours. I sent my parents an invitation out of courtesy or pettiness, I still can't tell the difference. They declined. My mother said my sister's marriage was fragile and needed their attention. I hung up and kissed my wife over spaghetti like it was a contract. We tried for a baby. Month after month, nothing. A specialist office that smelled like lemon and fear. Charts and injections and hope that aged quickly. The doctor said, "Not impossible, just uphill." I'm decent at uphill. Jules squeezed my hand so tight the bones met. We started the climb. I told myself I was healed enough to carry something small and holy. And then the past knocked politely, with reservations for 4. Dad called after 4 years of silence with his best "Life is short" speech. A dinner, neutral ground, both families. Jules said we could go, not to reconcile but to confirm. I agreed for one reason: I didn't want the ghost of what if rummaging through our bedroom at night. We picked a restaurant that mutes chaos: linen napkins, too many forks, staff with PhDs in calm. My sister arrived with 2 kids and a husband who can't meet eyes without a teleprompter. The boy had my ex's eyes. The girl had her smile. I swallowed a decade in one gulp. Small talk limped around the table and died near the bread. Dessert landed. Mom tilted her voice into polite dagger. Are you two thinking of children? Before I could answer, Ava snorted. Good luck with that. I heard it's difficult. She smiled at Jules. Some of us just have fertile energy. She tapped her belly. 12 weeks. Dad clapped like a seal. The world narrowed to a dot. Jules's hand found my knee. My jaw found granite. I stood. Chairs scraped. I could feel the old version of me, the soft one, asking for the check. The new version stayed. Let's actually talk, I said, calm like an empty church. About seducing my fiancé. About stealing my wedding and handing me a live stream. About 4 years of family witnesses who treated it like weather. Dad said my name like a leash. Mom whispered. Not here. Ava rolled her eyes. God, are you still on that? Move on. And something in me finally did. Not a way through. Okay, I said. Let's move on. After we name what happened. Her husband stared at his plate like it might perjure itself. Mom reached for my sleeve. Jules's fingers tightened once, a green light. I took a breath big enough for the next part of my life. I didn't stop talking. For the first time in 4 years, I let it all out, calmly, precisely, like a man reading from the minutes of his own funeral. You slept with the woman I was going to marry, I said to Ava, my voice flat. Then you used my wedding venue. My wedding menu. My playlist. You wore white, while pregnant with the baby made from my betrayal. And you didn't just do it, you celebrated it. You posted photos with captions like, Love always finds a way. Yeah, sure, like a virus. Her fork clinked against her plate. She tried to say something, maybe a joke, maybe a defense, but I held up a hand. No. You don't get to talk yet. Then I turned to my parents. And you. You helped her. You made the calls. Signed the checks. You told me to be the bigger man while handing her my life like it was a hand-me-down. You said it would be wasteful not to use my plans. Like my pain was recyclable. Mom looked stricken. Dad looked exhausted. Jules looked proud, which helped. Ava was smirking again. God, Noah, you're so dramatic. You act like Mara was a saint. She came to me. And newsflash, if she'd really loved you, she wouldn't have. Oh, you're right, I said. She didn't love me. She loved whatever version of herself she saw in your mirror. You know, the version who could wear her sister's dress and still feel like a bride. Her husband flinched at that. He still hadn't said a word. That man used to send me Spotify playlists when he missed me. Now he would look up from his lemon tart. And you, I said, finally turning to him. The ghost of fiancés past. Got anything to say? He blinked. Cleared his throat. Noah, man, I didn't mean for it to. I cut him off with a laugh. Save it. You meant for all of it. You just didn't think I'd survive it. I felt Jules squeeze my hand again under the table. That was the reminder. Don't burn it all down, just air it out. My mother was crying now. We made mistakes, she said. But we wanted to keep the family together. You didn't keep the family together, I said. You picked the easier daughter. That's when Ava leaned forward and said the words that would haunt me for months. He wasn't yours, Noah. If he was, I couldn't have taken him. There was a silence so deep the whole restaurant felt like it leaned in. I stood. So did Jules. We're leaving, she said, with that quiet authority that only comes from someone who's had enough. Come on, my mom pleaded. Let's not ruin the evening. I turned back one last time. Looked at all of them. You ruined this family a long time ago. I'm just done pretending you didn't. We walked out. Jules's heels clicked like punctuation behind me. I didn't look back. We didn't speak much on the drive home. The air was thick, but not with regret, with something closer to relief. Like the first clean breath after being underwater too long. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling while Jules slept beside me. The weight was off my chest, but something else had replaced it. Not grief. Not anger. Purpose. Because I wasn't done. See, I thought walking away would be enough. But some wounds don't close on their own. Sometimes they fester. And sometimes, the only way to truly heal is to show the world exactly what happened. Not for pity. Not for revenge, but for the truth to finally have a place to live. And mine was about to go very, very public. I never meant for it to explode. I swear to God, that wasn't the plan. But when you carry something like this for 4 years, and then your family serves it back to you cold with dessert, you need somewhere to put it. So I put it online. There's a forum, anonymous, mostly. Just usernames and heartbreaks, people unloading family betrayals that sound like rejected soap opera plots. I made an account. Noah _ was here. I typed like my hands were on fire. I told the story. The betrayal, the stolen wedding, the family dinner that turned into a finale. I left out names, cities, job titles, anything specific. I wasn't trying to dox them. I just needed anyone to see it and say, "Yeah, that's insane. You're not crazy. They're the problem." I clicked post at 2:04 a.m. By 2:17, I had 20 replies. By morning, over 400. People were furious on my behalf. Outraged. Vindicated. One comment said, "If this were a movie, people would call it unrealistic." Another wrote, "Your sister isn't a person. She's a natural disaster." And I felt seen. For the first time since the implosion, I wasn't yelling into a void. Then it spread. Someone screenshotted it and posted it on Reddit. From there, it hit TikTok. A dramatic voiceover, a 3-part series, hashtags I didn't understand. People debated it like it was a true crime case. Team Noah trended for a day. Podcasts dissected the story. One called it the wedding that broke the internet. And then it reached my hometown. My aunt called me, voice low and shaky. "Noah, did you post something about your sister online?" I froze. "I didn't use her name," I said. "It doesn't matter." Someone recognized the florist's name. The caterer. Your cousin's wedding had the same DJ. People started putting it together. I sat down hard. "It's gone viral," she said. "Everyone knows." "And your sister?" "She just got fired." Apparently, she'd been working reception at a dental clinic. One of the hygienists saw the post, connected the dots, showed it to her boss. They called it unprofessional behavior not aligned with our values. She was gone by Friday. My aunt continued. "Your mom called me crying. Says Ava can't even go to the grocery store without people whispering. One woman told her she should be ashamed." And that's when I felt it. Not guilt. Not shame. Satisfaction. A terrible, electric satisfaction that ran up my spine like cold champagne. For 4 years, I'd watched her be celebrated for stealing my life. Now the truth was public and it stuck. Her husband's family disowned them. Some of their old couple friends ghosted. Her oldest kid got into a fight at school after a classmate made a joke about babies at the wedding. And the worst part? I kept checking. Every day. I'd search her name. Scroll through Facebook comments. Reddit threads. Gossip accounts. I read every fresh rumor, every new humiliation. Like a man monitoring the stock market of someone else's suffering. Jules noticed. Of course she did. One night she came home and found me deep in a thread titled, "Update on the wedding thief sister." She took the laptop. Gently, but firmly. "What are you doing?" I didn't lie. "Reading." "Noah, she's not a show. This isn't entertainment. This is your past bleeding into your future. She's finally facing consequences." "Maybe," she said. "But you're still letting her live in your head rent-free. You've spent more time tracking her downfall than celebrating what we're trying to build." I wanted to argue. I wanted to say that I deserved to see it, to watch the slow, delicious unraveling of the girl who burned my life down. But I couldn't say any of it. Because deep down, I knew she was right. Still, I couldn't stop. I was addicted to the justice, the approval, the rightness of it all. Until the day my sister sent me a legal notice. A defamation claim. Yeah. She tried to sue me. I laughed when the envelope showed up. A whole, actual lawsuit. Certified mail. My name in bold next to the words. Defendant. I hadn't even seen her in person in years, and now she wanted to face off in court? Jules didn't laugh. She read the letter quietly, then looked up and said, "She's serious. She can't prove it was me. I never named her. It was anonymous. But it didn't matter. The claim was filed. She alleged I'd destroyed her reputation, cost her her job, and caused irreparable emotional harm. The irony, of course, was that she never showed this much energy when it came to, say, not sleeping with my fiancé. We hired a lawyer. A good one. He wore ugly suits and never made eye contact, which somehow made me trust him more. After reviewing the post and the fallout, he said, "This is flimsy. She has no case. No names, no locations, and truth is an absolute defense. Let her swing." It never made it past the first hearing. The judge looked at the filing, then at her lawyer, and said, "You're wasting the court's time. Case dismissed." I didn't even get to speak. I sat there in a button-down shirt watching her try to salvage her image with a handful of accusations and absolutely no receipts. She left the courthouse with her head down. Her husband didn't even come. Probably busy doing whatever cowards do on weekdays. We celebrated with tacos. Jules was relieved. I was annoyed. Not that we won, but that it ended so fast. I wanted her to feel it. The public loss. The consequence. And then, a week later, something happened that should have eclipsed everything. Jules was pregnant. 2 lines. A shaky laugh. She pressed the test into my hand and whispered, "It finally worked." I cried on the bathroom floor like a man who just realized he hadn't been breathing right for 2 years. All the injections, the doctors, the failed months, it had finally happened. This was it. Our new chapter. Our beginning. And what did I do? I checked Reddit. I opened the gossip forums to see if there were new threads about my sister. Comments. Rumors. Maybe an unflattering photo. I became obsessed with tracking her misery while holding a miracle in my hands. Jules caught me a week later. She walked into the living room and found me on my laptop, eyes glued to a post titled, "Update, the wedding homewreckers' kids are getting bullied now." She didn't yell. Didn't cry. She just closed the laptop softly and said, "What are you doing, Noah?" "She's losing everything," I said, as if it were an excuse. "Her job, her friends, her dignity, she's finally facing consequences. And you're watching it like it's a game show," she said. I didn't respond. Because that's exactly what I was doing. Tracking her downfall the way other people watch sports scores. Then she sat down and looked at me with this calm, terrifying clarity. "She's still controlling you," she said. "She's still the center of your emotional orbit. Not me. Not this baby. Her." That hit harder than the lawsuit. "You're wrong," I said. "I've moved on. You're pregnant with our child," she said softly. "And I've spent more time watching you look for proof that your sister's life is worse than yours than watching you be happy." She stood up and walked out of the room. I sat there in silence, laptop closed, heartbeat loud. And she was right. Because even after we won, I still needed to see her lose. I thought justice would feel like healing. But it felt more like a drug. And I was deep in withdrawal. Then, a few weeks later, I made a mistake. A big one. I went back to our hometown for work. Quick day trip. I stopped at the grocery store before heading back. And that's where I saw him. A little boy, standing in the cereal aisle, staring at the floor like it had hurt his feelings. It was my nephew. My sister's son. The one conceived from betrayal. And he looked wrecked. Tears down his cheeks. Small body shaking. Next to him, my mom. My mother, grayer, thinner, holding a store-brand box of cereal and begging him softly not to cry. A group of kids across the aisle were pointing and laughing. "That's the kid," one said. "His mom's the one from the photos." Photos? I didn't know what they meant yet. But I watched my mother gather him up like wreckage and guide him to the register, trying to shield him from a humiliation he didn't deserve. And for the first time in this whole ugly saga, I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt sick. The next morning, I called my aunt. "What's going on with Ava?" I asked, skipping pleasantries. There was a long pause. Then she said, "You really want to know? Tell me." Her voice dropped. "She's broke, Noah. Completely broke. Her husband walked out 6 months ago. Left her with 3 kids and no money. They're all living with your parents now. Your mom's retirement barely covers groceries." I sat down. "How's she getting by?" More silence. Then, "She's been posting pictures online. Selling them." I blinked. "Like modeling?" "No. Not modeling." It hit me like a punch. Jesus. She's desperate, Noah. No one will hire her. Everyone in town knows the story. They whispered behind her back. She started doing this to survive, and last week. Her voice cracked. Last week, someone recognized her. Screenshotted everything. The photos are everywhere. I felt hollow. And the kids? They're being bullied. Your nephew came home crying after someone showed the pictures around school. I stared at the floor for a long time. This wasn't justice. This was collateral damage. That night, Jules found me crying in the nursery. We were still painting. I didn't mean for this, I said. I know, she said softly. But now you have to decide, are you going to keep watching her burn? Or are you going to put the fire out? I looked at the paint-stained walls. Our future in soft pastel blue. And for the first time, I wasn't sure who the villain really was anymore. The nightmares started not long after that. Always the same, my nephew standing in front of a crowd, crying while people laughed, and I stood in the back smiling. In the dream, I wasn't horrified. I was proud. And that image haunted me more than anything my sister had ever done. One morning, Jules found me sitting in the bathroom, lights off, holding my phone like it was poison. I lied to him. I whispered. Who? She asked. Our son. He asked if he had an aunt. I told him no. She sat beside me. Why? Because it was easier. Because I didn't want him to know the truth. Because I didn't want to see myself through his eyes. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that cracked me open. You're becoming what you hate, Noah. You talk about justice, but what you want is punishment. You're not protecting our son. You're teaching him that revenge matters more than healing. That night, my father called. She's sick, he said. Your mom. It's cancer. Pancreatic. They've given her 6 months. The ground shifted. What do you want me to do with that? She wants to see you. One last time. I didn't answer. Couldn't. But that night, I sat at my desk and wrote a letter. Not to my mother. To my sister. I didn't forgive her. But I told her I was done fighting. Done watching her suffer. Done feeding the fire that had already burned us both to ash. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was a start. We met in the hospital lobby, me, my father, and her. Ava looked older, thinner, worn down by life and shame. She didn't speak. Neither did I. Then her son looked at me and asked, Are you my aunt? Just like that, innocent, simple, unburdened. I said yes. His eyes lit up like he'd found something he didn't know he was missing. Ava cried quietly and excused herself. I stayed with the boy. Told him I was sorry about Grandma. Told him families are complicated. He nodded like he understood, and maybe he did more than any of us. Later, Ava and I walked down the hall together. Not speaking, just breathing the same air for the first time in years. We entered Mom's room together. She smiled when she saw us, really smiled. I think that's what she'd been waiting for. Over the next weeks, I visited 3 more times. We never spoke about the betrayal. Just sat. Remembered small things. Let the silence hold what the words couldn't. And when she died, I was there. So was Ava. The funeral was quiet, restrained. Church pews, white lilies, polite condolences from people pretending they didn't know the real story. Ava and I sat on opposite sides of the aisle. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. Our presence was the conversation. After the burial, everyone drifted away except us. We stood alone at our mother's grave, wind tugging at our jackets, both of us staring at the dirt like it might offer answers. Ava finally whispered, I destroyed everything. I know that. I looked at her, really looked, and saw someone who'd been broken long before she ever broke me. I became like you, I said. I watched your life fall apart and felt good about it. That's not justice. That's rot. She nodded. I deserved the fallout. But my kids didn't. No. They didn't. I pulled the letter from my coat pocket, the one I'd written months ago, and handed it to her. It's not forgiveness. But it's the truth. From me. Finally. She took it like it might shatter. Thank you. I walked away. 3 years have passed. Ava and I are not close. We may never be. But the war ended that day. We coexist now for the sake of the kids, for the peace we owe ourselves. I send money for her children. She doesn't thank me, and I don't need her to. Our sons play together now. They laugh like nothing ever happened. And maybe that's the lesson. Not that betrayal breaks us, but that choosing not to pass it down, that's where healing starts. I'll never get back the life I lost. But I'm building something better. Not perfect, but peaceful. I look at my son now, sleeping peacefully in a world I fought like hell to make safer. He'll never know the full weight of what we went through. That's by design. Ava and I may never be sisters and brothers again, but we're no longer enemies. And for me, for Jules, for him, that's enough. I chose peace. I chose him. And for once, I didn't look back.